afternoon, Scott Radler, T3 Live. Welcome to today's recap. It is Wednesday, another day in the market, another day of the grinding action with a little bit of upside where stock selection is key. We talk about the intermediate trend that goes on in the market, and if you look at the SPX, it just keeps continuing. All right, there you go. There's a chart. Last time we had it, it lasted a little bit like a shorter time frame before breaking above 1900 and giving you a quick move. And since then, it's been, at least it's not just like taking off and causing some kind of long pain trade where this kind of felt a little bit like that for some people. You know, so you get some pullbacks, you get to see some relative strength, you get to see what's going on, and all of a sudden, you know, here you are breaking above this range again, and not tacking on huge gains, but you know what, when the market's up 150 points or 200 points in a day or whatever it is, it's hard anyway. So if the Dow's down 25 and the S&P's up 2-3 handles and you could find great stocks, you know, that's awesome. You know, this week, before we get into some of the earnings, we talked about the financials acting better. Lots of them came out with earnings. You had Citigroup came out with earnings, acted pretty good. Morgan and Goldman and even JPM, they had nice patterns. You know, you look real quickly, you look at Citigroup, didn't really close well, but you know, we talked about how if it could get above this downtrend here, that perhaps is a flag for it to then take off from, and you could have been a buyer of this below 50. It went as high as 50, 58, and I do think at some point, why wouldn't it at least tag there or go higher? Morgan, we've talked about this 33 area for a while now, and this thing is just nudging above it. I know it wasn't so powerful today, but nice, slow, and steady. Goldman Sachs, best in breed from its report, made a higher high 2 days ago, which we discussed in the morning call. Here you go. There's another spot, and now it's it's had a nice move. So I think at this point, you know, maybe trim and trail, and I would even think maybe if we had a gap open tomorrow, it could be a cute short. And the one that kind of sucks is Bank of America. I guess it happens. And I'm in this one, but I'm also in Citi and I'm also in Morgan. And this one hasn't been the same. This one, ever since it had this false breakout the last quarter, it broke the 21-day. It's been very lethargic. We had a decent trade here. It's still, I still feel like it might be able to play catch up, but you know, I guess after the last report, and it still hasn't come out with what it's going to, I guess, settle with the government, and so it's just kind of hanging out there. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't play catch up, but that's why you don't be in just one. And even I had JP Morgan today on the VTF at some point, talked about how it held its gap, which is a rule we talk about in our swing trading courses, and then extended. So here is it held the gap, and not a barn-burning move, but there was action in those banks. Apple came out with earnings. Wasn't sure how it would respond because it didn't crush everything. It was very solid with very high expectations. So I said to myself, okay, if Apple can get above 95.30, which is a pivot point, maybe I'll look to get a little long, and then who knows, maybe it takes out 97.10. I don't know how quickly it happens. And if you look at Apple, Apple wound up holding the trend. It was negative early on, so at least it gave you a spot to buy it. Cleared this. This is why it came out at 95.30. This was 95.27. It went through 97.10, made its peak early on, and then just kind of sat there. I don't think this is really overbought, to be honest. A big day today. It was hovering here for a while, so I do think it can go higher. You go to the 60-minute. It would have been nicer for everybody if it would have. Let's go not to the 60-minute. Let's go to the, I guess the 10-minute. If it would have went at the end of the day, because you had to, you know, when stocks go, you know, and you can't get them, that's when you usually want them. When you can get them, you don't want them. But this had a really nice move and consolidated from the highs here. The high of Apple was at, what was that, 1040, and then it did nothing the rest of the day, which kind of is frustrating, but it is what it is. It had a big move. It's absorbing it. So now we'll know at least if it gets over this high, it can continue. Tomorrow, I guess, in order for it to be really good or keep the momentum, I would think it wouldn't go really much below 96.70. And then my line in the sand would be 96. If it gets below 96, that would be very frustrating. Hopefully it opens up a little bit. I still have some, and it gets over this, and it continues. We shall see. Talked about Facebook. I traded it after hours on the VTF. I actually made a little bit of money, which was good. And then I came in here, and as I came in here, I stopped and talked to a few traders, and then I looked at the thing, and all of a sudden it's 75. There you go. Facebook's been a great stock, been in a strong trend. You know, we talked about when Yellen spoke that you have to interpret the action. this trend has been strong. This trend has been intact. You look here, when Yellen said that the internet sector has stretched valuations, it happened right in here, and it didn't go down. It didn't give back a lot of this 3-day move and engulfed it, gave you a nice 2-day range. And then today, I don't typically like to trade stocks on days of earnings, but bought it, made a little bit of money when it went through 70. I obviously didn't hold it for earnings, but after hours you could have traded it, gave you some time, and then it cleared this pivot. It cleared, what is this, 72, and I think I tweeted saying there was a $5 expected move in the options, and I think that's where it is right now. We'll see what happens to Twitter. I do have some Twitter options. This pattern is somewhat tight. It's a bit of a dog. The consensus is really negative on it, so that's why I'm like, maybe it gets you a nice move. I have the $40 calls. We'll see what happens. If it were to clear this 38.60, perhaps it moves better. Microsoft opened up and was sold down, so not much to talk about there except for it's got to hold this 44 area to stay relevant. Intel also, a little bit of an inside day, still looks good. You have your tight pattern coming across this way. Inside day looks fine. Amazon, down day, but actually not even that bad. You look at it, it's consolidating again. Remember that downgrade by Citigroup that was bought? It's getting tight. It still has to contend with its own earnings. Netflix, which has been weaker since the quarter, okay, things change, wasn't enough. At this point, I think some people are looking to see if it could stay below this 440-ish. Perhaps you get a bear flag here for a continuation trade below 425 because, again, it's come a long way, and if numbers don't really impress, they typically go down. Tesla, not much to talk about, still has earnings next week, late next week. Tried to poke its head out today, and really, if you bought strength, you definitely were a little frustrated and still hanging in there. LinkedIn, Sperling's play of the week, acted much better. It shows you how even guys like myself who's been doing this a long time could get chopped up. I was trying to buy it in here, didn't have much success, and then look, I'm sure tomorrow it'll be over this price point. See what happens if it can continue. What else went on today? Let's see. BMW came out with numbers, didn't really do much. Opened up and reversed, still in a pretty crappy trend. FFIV, decent solid report. I don't know what it's going to do. I took some calls just to be involved. I was thinking that maybe because Juniper was bad and BMW wasn't great, that all of a sudden this thing that's been in this range for a long time might be able to go. So I bought some in-the-money calls, small. We'll see what happens tomorrow. If it's if it doesn't work, risk is premium paid, and that'll be a little bit of a donation by me. Gold, I know a lot of people still think gold is great. To me, it's been a tough trade from day to day. I think the consensus, I don't care what anyone says, was real negative when it came into the year, and that was right around here. I know for us, we looked at a little bit of a strategy right there, and then right when everyone got really positive, it came in, and now it's done nothing. But anyway, if you just want to call a spade here in the GLDs, I guess it has a nice little range here. And unfortunately, when it closed good here, it opened down. When it closed bad there, it went up. And then now it's just in no man's land. So I don't even think it's worth your time. And that's really it. There's been a lot of earnings. There's been a lot to do. Apple was a pleasant surprise. At least they didn't gap it up 3 points and do nothing. They opened it negative and went positive. You had 95.30, you had 97.10, and you could have made some money there. Google still hanging around. If you want to take a look there, it's got a nice chart pattern here where it's not a barn burner yet, but maybe tomorrow if they want to let some of these high betas loose. It did have a nice earnings move, held 590. It's hanging in there pretty well. If it can get above 609, perhaps it tries to take a stab and take out the 2014 highs of 614. In my note, we've talked about eBay acting better since earnings. That had a nice extension, into this the 200-day. So there was a nice trade off the lows. I actually took home some Target. I know it's a laggard type trade and it's been out of play for a long time, but I was thinking maybe you have a bit of a downtrend here that it's breaking. Closed relatively strong, and so I said it's worth a try. It's looking decent. I also took home a little Walmart. It'll be on my disclosures where it too has been out of play. It's got a huge channel. If you look here, it's got somewhat of a decent, I know it's a one day good, one day bad, a decent bull flag type of pattern here where if we wanted to go, at least there's something to do there. So I have some. Same thing goes for MGM. You can look at my disclosures. I have a little MGM. This uptrend somewhat held. Then it broke above this little mini range and flagged pretty well. So let's hope that maybe it gets a little traction tomorrow. So it is the summer, and you don't have to be everywhere, but there are lots of things to do. If you're just looking for a top, you're probably knocking your head against the wall and a little upset at the world. And I see a lot of people upset at the world on Twitter when people try and be glass half full or optimistic or try and look for ideas versus looking for a top. And if that's you, you better change. Life's too short. If you're a negative Nelly and all you're doing is trying to, commiserate with others out there because you're not involved or you're shorting and you're using opinions, then don't follow me and move on and try and change your process, because even if we do wind up getting some kind of corrective activity, hopefully we're on top of it. We'll see us close below the 21-day on the S&P. We'll get tactical, and then if it stays below it, we'll get short, and we'll find ways to make money short. But until that happens, there's a lot more opportunities to the long side, and it's a summer. You should be happy. You should be out there with your family, friends, maybe doing some fitness and making progress versus making waves. With all that said, I'll see you tomorrow morning with Brittany. Have a great night.